Pleased to be supporting this bill to the House.
Reno Turikatni.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to be standing and speaking on this, the first reading of the Heritage New Zealand Pouhere Taonga Bill. Labour and we support this bill to the Select Committee. This bill really marks quite a big change, I guess, in terms of bringing the New Zealand Historic Places Trust into being just a focused regulatory statutory function type body, as opposed to a broad membership-supported, volunteer-based heritage protection organisation, which it was originally established as back in the 1950s. So the Historic Places Trust is the leading national historic heritage agency, and under this Act it's moving from that volunteer roots through to a completely autonomous Crown entity under its own Act now, with its new name, the Heritage New Zealand Pouhere Taonga. So it's a completely new organisation constituted under this bill, which will be its own legislation, and the major changes really are to really focus on that regulatory side of what it does, and that is around the regulation of destruction and investigation of archaeological sites, identification and maintenance of a register of historical and cultural heritage, and managing its portfolio of some 48 properties. So the Heritage New Zealand, as it stands, a real significant change with the new organisation is the change at the governance level. Currently, the new Historic Places Trust has a 9-member board. 6 are appointed by the Minister, 3 are elected by the members, and this is the major significant change, is really the disestablishment of the 24 branch committees, which were representing some 20,000 plus members of the Historic Places Trust. So those committees are no more under this Act. The new Heritage New Zealand will be a member-based organisation. However, it's difficult to see what scope will be given to its non-regulatory type roles, given that the branch committees will no longer exist, and therefore there will be no real say from the members of the organisation into the governance and the activities of the new organisation. But in spite of that, the new governance arrangements will mean that there will be a 8-member board, all of whom will be appointed by the Minister, and sort of operating alongside that board will be an 8-member Māori Heritage Council, and I'm pleased to see that the bill has not only retained the full composition and membership of the Māori Heritage Council, 4 of which members will be from the board, and another 4 will be appointed from Māoridom at large, from appropriately qualified and skilled people in the heritage area. But the 8-member board, alongside the 8-member Māori Heritage Council, signifies a good, in terms of numbers, a good alignment in terms of the treaty principles which have been embodied in the treaty clause within the bill. And just looking at the Māori Heritage Council, you know, there are some very esteemed members from within Māoridom who make up that council. We have Sir Tumu Te Hiohio, the Chair, Paramount Chief of Tūwharetoa, Nada Glavish, well-known queer from up in Ngāti Whātua there. Apirana Mahuika, Paramount Chief of Ngāti Porou, Manos Nathan from up north, Taonga Gerard O'Regan from the south. It's good to see some representation from down in the south, and Gerard has done a lot of work in terms of the rock art down South Way. Jamie Tuta, the rep from Taranaki, Māori trustee. He wears quite a lot of hats these days. He's also on the Māori Heritage Council, and also Shay Wilson from up the Wanganui River. So those current members of the Māori Heritage Council are a very esteemed group, and they have a very important role to play, and it is encouraging to see that the bill not only retains that full Māori Heritage Council, but it makes sure that its role has been expanded, and it will now be consulted on all applications regarding the modification of archaeological sites or for archaeological authority. So, returning back to the governance arrangements, Mr. Speaker, the whole emphasis or the regarding the changes that have been made in this legislation have revolved around the conflicts that arose between the Trust trying to exercise its statutory responsibilities, regulatory functions, staff being able to take positions on heritage issues, versus contrary views by particular regions or branch committees who were promoting heritage in their own regions. And so it led to situations where it wasn't very clear who spoke for the Trust, and also what the position of the Trust was. And so the emphasis now has moved to just that purely a regulatory statutory function, and in light of that, those branch committees now being disbanded. I guess the hope will be that those groups or those organisations will become independent heritage advocates in their own right, or also join up with new or existing heritage organisations in their particular locality. And there are quite a lot of those. As I mentioned, there were 24 branch committees. I understand not all were functioning, but there were about 20 functioning committees. So it still represents a large cross-section of concerned or interested individuals in heritage protection. And some 10 of those committees were or are situated within the vast electorate of Te Taonga. So that's from Wellington all the way down to the far south. So those branch committees will be no more, but that is the intention of this bill, and it will be in the hope that there will be more expeditious processing and decision making achieved by the new Heritage New Zealand. I just want to conclude, Mr. Speaker, by just touching on the archaeological consenting provisions. And I do want to, I concur with the remarks by Ms. Delahunty in terms of it is, on the face of it, encouraging to see that the Māori Heritage Council will be consulted on all applications. However, there is the exception that they won't be consulted if the development is of a minor nature. So I look forward to hearing back in terms of what submissions are made to the Select Committee in terms of how, in the push for expeditious processing of applications and granting of authorities, that we don't disregard the importance that Wāhi Tapu archaeological sites have to the tangata whenua, and I would hope that the Māori Heritage Council will be extremely busy in terms of making sure that the some 350 odd applications which on average are being made for the archaeological authorities each year, that they will be fully involved on behalf of the tangata whenua to make sure that Māori heritage is protected under this new setup and this new bill. And so
Order.
I commend this bill to the House and look forward to its reporting back. Kia ora.
Maggie Barry.
It is with great pleasure